The storm hit hard that night, wind howling like it had something to say. I sat alone in my apartment, the kind of quiet that presses in after everything's gone. Rain lashed the windows, blurring the city lights outside. I wasn't thinking about her, my ex, the one who'd left scars that still ached. Or at least, I tried not to. The power flickered, once, twice, casting shadows that danced across the walls. Then, the door clicked open. No knock. Just her, my ex's sister, standing there, soaked through, water streaming from her hair. Our eyes met. No words. Thunder rolled low, pulling me under. I froze. My heart thudded against my ribs, sharp and sudden, like gravel under tires. It was her silhouette I recognized first, that familiar curve of shoulders I'd seen 100 times at family dinners, always lingering just a bit too long in my mind. She stepped in, the door shutting behind her with a soft thud that echoed louder than the rain. Water dripped from her coat, pooling on the hardwood floor in dark, spreading circles. She didn't shake it off, just stood there, breathing steady, her chest rising and falling under the wet fabric. She was the younger sister, the one who'd always been a shadow to my ex. Quieter, sharper around the edges. The first time I'd met her, it was at that backyard barbecue, the air thick with charcoal smoke and laughter. My ex had pulled me close, her arm around my waist like a claim. But Lena, her sister, had caught my eye across the yard. She was flipping burgers, sleeves rolled up, forearms dusted with flour from some pie she'd baked earlier. Our hands brushed when she passed me a plate, and that spark, small but insistent, had lodged in me like silt in a riverbed. I wrote it off as nothing. Flirtations like that happened, right? Quick glances, a laugh that lasted too long. But it stuck, buried under the life I built with her sister. Now here she was, invading the space I'd carved out alone. The air felt heavier, charged with the scent of rain and something earthier, her skin maybe, mixed with the storm. I wanted to speak, to ask why she had a key, how she knew where I lived now. But my throat tightened. Shame crept in, hot and familiar. What right did I have to feel anything for her? She was tied to the woman who'd broken me, the one whose absence still echoed in empty rooms. Grief twisted in my gut, unresolved, like a knot I couldn't untie. And beneath it, that old pull, the attraction I'd shoved down, afraid it made me the villain in my own story. She shrugged off her coat, letting it fall to the floor with a wet slap. Her shirt clung to her, outlining the line of her collarbone, the way her neck met her shoulder. I looked away, but not fast enough. Her eyes followed mine, steady, unblinking. No accusation there, just a quiet knowing that made my pulse race. We hadn't spoken since the breakup, not really. A nod at the funeral for our mutual friend maybe, but nothing more. Yet here she was, wordless, her presence filling the room like the storm outside. I stood, legs unsteady, the floor cool under my bare feet. She didn't move toward me, just peeled off her soaked shoes, one by one, the sound muffled by the downpour. Water trailed from her heels, snaking toward the rug. My mind raced. Should I offer a towel? Turn on a light? But the words stuck, shame whispering that this was wrong. Feeling her eyes on me, tracing the loose strands of my hair, the way my sweater hung off one shoulder. It was like those stolen moments before, when my ex wasn't looking, and Lena's gaze would linger, warm and unspoken. The thunder cracked then, sharp enough to rattle the panes. She flinched, just a little, her hand tightening at her side. Without thinking, she moved closer to the window, peering out at the sheets of rain. Her back to me now, shoulders tense. I watched the way her hair clung to her neck, dark strands curling damp against pale skin. The room felt smaller, the space between us shrinking with every rumble outside. Shame burned, but so did something else. Comfort, unexpected. In the way she didn't demand explanation. Just being there, sharing the storm's fury without a single word. She stayed by the window a moment longer, her frame outlined against the glass streaked with rain. I watched her from across the room, the way her shoulders slumped just enough to betray the weight she carried. Weary. That's the word for it. Not defeated, but worn down by something invisible. Like silt settling after a flood. Her face, when she finally turned, held lines I hadn't noticed before. Shadows under her eyes. A tightness around her mouth. Grief. It etched her features, raw and unfiltered in the dim light. Our ex, her sister, had been gone 6 months now, taken by that accident on the interstate. The one we'd both mourned in our separate silences. No calls, no shared tears. Just this, now, binding us without permission. I shifted on the couch, the cushions sinking under me. The air between us hummed with it, the loss we'd never named. She met my gaze again, and in that look, I saw the condolences neither of us would voice. Her eyes, dark and steady, held the same hollow I'd felt in my chest these months. We were mirrors, cracked in the same places. The storm outside mirrored it too, relentless, washing away what couldn't be held. My fingers tightened on the armrest, knuckles whitening. Part of me wanted to reach out, to say something about the funeral, the way the rain had fallen that day too, blurring the edges of everything. But shame clamped down. What comfort could I offer? I'd loved her sister once, fiercely, until it shattered. Now this pull toward Lena felt like theft, stealing from a grave. Her hair clung to her neck still, wet strands twisting like roots after rain. A drop traced down her skin, slow, catching the faint glow from the street lamp outside. Her hands, those capable hands I'd remembered from barbecues, flipping meat or passing drinks, trembled now, just a slight quiver as she crossed her arms. Cold, maybe, or the same storm inside her. I stood, the floorboards creaking under my weight. The room smelled of damp wool and the faint trace of her soap, something clean and herbal, cutting through the musty air. My heart raced, thudding low and insistent, like boots on gravel. That old attraction stirred, unbidden, warming my skin despite the chill seeping from the windows. Her lips, full and parted slightly, drew my eyes. I remembered the way she'd laugh, head thrown back, exposing the line of her throat. Forbidden, then, when her sister held my hand. Wrong now, with grief still fresh. I moved toward the hallway, toward the linen closet, needing to do something. A towel, simple, neutral. My bare feet patted soft on the wood, each step pulling me closer to her space. She turned fully as I approached, her posture straightening a fraction, but the weariness lingered in the slope of her neck. I held out the folded towel, terry cloth rough against my palm, steam from the bathroom still clinging to it faintly. Warmth for her chill. But she shook her head, subtle, almost imperceptible. A tilt that said no without sound. Her eyes flicked to the towel, then back to mine, holding there. Refusal? Or something deeper? Trust, maybe, that I wouldn't push? Or fear of breaking the quiet we'd built? The lights dimmed then, flickering like a breath held too long. The bulb hummed, protesting, before settling into a softer glow. Shadows stretched across the room, pulling us into closer proximity, the space between shrinking to inches. Her breath came even, visible in the cooling air, mingling with mine. I lowered the towel, letting it drape over the chair instead. No words, just us, in the half-light, assessing the ruins of what we'd lost, and what might still flicker beneath. My mind slipped back then, unbidden, to the nights before it all unraveled. Her sister, my ex, had come home late again, the door slamming like an accusation. I'd waited on this same couch, the fabric worn soft under my fingers, heart thudding with questions I never asked. Betrayal hung in the air even then, sharp as the scent of her cologne mixed with someone else's perfume. Lena had been there once, showing up unannounced with takeout, her eyes flicking between us like she saw the cracks. She'd sat with me after, when my ex stormed out, her hand on my knee, steady. Confidant. That's what she was. Listening to my whispers about the fights, the lies, without judgment. Her voice low, saying things like, You deserve steady ground. Words that lodged deep, warming me when everything else froze. The scent hit me now. Rain heavy on her skin, mingling with that faint perfume she always wore. Jasmine, maybe. Or something wilder, like crushed petals after a downpour. It pulled me under, anchoring the memory to this moment. I breathed it in, chest tight. Shame bubbled up, hot and insistent, like silt churning in a flooded creek. How could I feel this now? The attraction stirring again, a low hum under my skin, tracing the line of her jaw in the dim light. It felt like betrayal, sharp-edged, cutting into the grief I'd nursed alone. Loving her sister had been a storm, fierce, consuming, ending in wreckage. Now Lena, with her quiet strength, felt like the eye of it. Forbidden, wrong. As if wanting her stole from the dead, from the promises I'd broken first. She moved then, her gaze steady on mine, no rush. A gesture toward the couch, subtle, her chin tilting, hand flicking open-palmed. Invitation without demand. I nodded, throat dry, and we sank down together. Inches apart. The cushions dipped, pulling us closer, our knees almost brushing. Heat radiated from her, cutting the chill that seeped from the floor. I traced her features with my eyes, the curve of her cheek, shadowed now, the way her lashes clumped from the wet. Familiar. Too familiar. From those family holidays, when she'd lean in to refill my wine, breath warm on my ear. Or the time at the lake house, swimsuit clinging after a dive, her laugh pulling me in before I caught myself. Our breathing synced without trying. In, out. Slow, deliberate, matching the rhythm of the rain easing against the glass. Mine shallow at first, then deepening to match hers. Chest rising, falling, the space between us humming with it. Shame twisted tighter. This wasn't comfort. It was something sharper, rekindling embers I buried under layers of hurt. Grief for her sister flooded back, the accident's screech in my nightmares, the empty side of the bed. Lena carried it too. I saw it in the faint tremor of her lip. Yet here we were, drawn in silence, attraction weaving through the loss like roots through cracked earth. I wanted to pull away, to name the wrongness aloud, but my body stayed, leaning just a fraction, drawn to her warmth. The wind howled outside, a gust rattling the frame. Cold slipped under the door, raising gooseflesh on my arms. I stood, quick, and crossed to the closet. The blanket was there, soft wool, the one I'd wrapped around myself on bad nights. I pulled it free, the fabric heavy in my hands, and turned back. She watched, eyes soft. I draped it over us both, our shoulders touching under the weight. Warmth spread, slow, her scent stronger now, wrapping around me. Thunder grumbled low, fading, but the pull between us sharpened, unspoken. The blanket settled heavy across our laps, wool scratching soft against my jeans. Warmth bloomed where it touched her arm, chasing the storm's chill that clung to the air. Outside, rain drummed steady, a rhythm that matched the slow thud in my chest. Her shoulder pressed against mine, solid, unyielding. I didn't pull away. Couldn't. The fabric trapped her heat, her scent, damp earth and that faint jasmine, rising like mist from a warming riverbed. I adjusted the edge, fingers grazing the hem near her knee. Hers moved too, calloused tips brushing mine in the fold. Electric. A jolt shot up my arm, sharp as gravel under bare soles. I froze. She didn't withdraw, just let the contact linger, skin to skin, under the shared weight. My breath caught, shallow. Shame flooded hot, twisting low in my gut. This was her, Lena, the sister. Forbidden ground, marked by the life I'd lost. Those family gatherings flashed back, unbidden. Thanksgiving tables laden with turkey and cranberry, laughter cutting the air. I'd catch her across the room, eyes meeting over pie plates. Stolen glances, quick as a spark on dry tinder. Her smile, crooked, aimed just at me while her sister carved the bird. I'd look away, heat rising, telling myself it was nothing. Gratitude, maybe, for her quiet support when fights brewed. But it was more. Always more. A pull I'd buried under loyalty, under the ring that never came. Now, under this blanket, it resurfaced, insistent. Her thighs shifted, denim whispering against mine. Close. Too close. The room's dim light caught the curve of her wrist, veins faint under skin still chilled from the rain. Shame intensified, a silt-thick weight settling in my chest. She represented everything tangled. The grief for her sister, the betrayal I'd sensed in those last months, the accident that stole her away. Wanting Lena felt like crossing a line drawn in blood, stealing comfort from the wreckage. My ex's shadow loomed, accusatory, in the thunder's rumble. How could I lean into this? Her nearness mocked the empty space I'd carved alone, nights curled tight against the cold. Yet my body betrayed me, inching closer. The blanket's warmth spread, her heat seeping through layers. I traced the line of her forearm with my eyes, strong, dusted with fine hairs that caught the light. Memories layered thicker. Christmas Eve, lights twinkling on the tree. She'd handed me a mug of cider, fingers lingering on the handle. Our eyes locked, the room's chatter fading. Her sister called from the kitchen, breaking it, but that moment stuck, a root twisting deeper. Shame burned brighter now, flushing my neck. This wasn't healing, it was trespass. Attraction rekindling like embers in ash. Forbidden territory, her body a map I'd only glimpsed in dreams, now inches away. Her hand rested then, palm down on the cushion between us, near my thigh. So near the heat of it radiated, pausing the air. Electric again, that proximity. A live wire humming silent. My pulse thudded low, skin prickling under my clothes. I wanted to shift away, to name the wrongness in the space we'd claimed. But I stayed, breath syncing with hers, shallow rises matching the storm's ebb. Her fingers flexed, subtle, not touching but close enough to feel the promise. Grief twisted with it, her sister's face flickering in my mind, laughing, alive, then gone. Lena carried that loss too, etched in the tension of her jaw. Comfort, unexpected, wove through the shame. Her presence filled the hollow, warm against the chill. The lights flickered once more, a warning hum, then plunged. Darkness swallowed the room, thick as silt in floodwater. Only the storm's glow lit faint outlines, her profile, sharp against the window. Our breaths mingled, closer now, the outage pulling us into shadow's embrace. Darkness wrapped around us, thick and unyielding, the kind that presses close, erasing edges. I fumbled in the drawer by the couch, fingers closing on the matches, rough cardboard, sulfur sharp under my nails. One strike, the flare brief and orange, lighting her face in a stutter of gold. The candle caught, wick sputtering before steadying, its flame low and flickering. Wax pooled slow at the base, scent of vanilla rising faint, cutting the damp. Shadows danced across the walls, intimate, curling over her cheekbones, deepening the hollows under her eyes. Her skin glowed warm in that light, freckles faint like silt scattered on pale river stone. My pulse thudded heavy, low in my throat, echoing the distant rain. The outage had stripped the room bare, no distractions, just us in this pocket of glow. My body leaned, instinctive, drawn to the heat still trapped under the blanket. Her arm brushed mine, solid, the wool shifting with the movement. Warmth seeped through, chasing the chill that clawed at the windows. I felt it in my chest, a tightening, the air between us thinning to nothing. Her breath came even, visible now in the cooling dark, mingling with mine, short exhales that warmed my skin. The candle's flicker caught the curve of her lip, parted slight, and something stirred deeper, a pull I'd fought for years. She turned her head, slow, eyes catching the light. Vulnerability flashed there, raw. A softening around her mouth, lashes lowering for a beat. It mirrored my own turmoil, the grief twisting fresh in my gut, her sister's absence a shadow in the flames' sway. Gone too soon, that screech of tires in my dreams, the hospital's sterile hush. Lena carried it heavier, I knew, the blood tie, the mornings without her voice. Her gaze held mine, steady but cracked, conveying the rekindled pull without a sound. No words needed, her eyes said it. The want buried under loss, the comfort we'd both denied. Attraction hummed, silent, electric, her nearness a tether in the black. Shame whispered then, insistent, coiling tight in my belly. This can't happen. Not with her. She was woven into the wreckage. Family, loyalty, the woman we'd both loved and lost. Leaning closer felt like betrayal, stealing solace from the grave. My body a traitor to the vows I'd whispered in better days. Heat flushed my neck, shame's silt choking the breath. I'd buried this before, those glances at holidays, her hand steady on my back during fights. Forbidden then, when her sister claimed me. Wrong now, with grief still raw. Her scent, jasmine faint under rain, pulling me under. My fingers twitched under the blanket, inches from hers, wanting to bridge it despite the burn. The flame dipped, shadows lengthening across her jaw, tracing the line I'd memorized in stolen moments. Her chest rose, fell, sinking with mine again, the rhythm pulling me nearer. Vulnerability lingered in her eyes, a plea unspoken. See me, not the ghost between us. My turmoil echoed it, heart slamming against ribs, the candle's glow turning her hair to burnished silk. No dialogue bridged us, but expressions wove the thread. Her brow furrowing soft, my lips pressing thin. Rekindled, the pull sharpened, grief transforming to something warmer, dangerous. Shame clawed harder, whispering retreat, but my shoulder stayed pressed to hers, warmth, a quiet rebellion. Lightning cracked, distant, a flash through the blinds. It illuminated us brief, her eyes locked on mine, charged, the air snapping with it. Thunder followed low, rumbling through the floor. The candle steadied, shadows settling again, but the contact lingered, electric in the afterglow. Under the blanket, in the candle's unsteady glow, my hand shifted, seeking. Fingers brushed hers first, cool, damp from the rain, but warming where our skin met. She didn't pull back. Instead, her palm turned up, tentative, inviting the clasp. I closed the gap, our hands linking slow, like roots finding soil in cracked earth. The contact anchored me, solid against the dark's pull. Her grip tightened just enough, calluses rough against my smoother skin, a reminder of her hands in the garden turning dirt to life. Heat spread from there, up my arm, settling low in my chest. No words, just this silent admission, hands speaking what shame had silenced. Memories flooded then, unbidden, washing over me like the storm outside. Late nights in her sister's kitchen, the clock ticking past midnight. I'd pace, voice cracking as I spilled the doubts, the arguments that left bruises no one saw. The way her sister pulled away, eyes distant. Lena would sit across the table, mug steaming between us, listening without interruption. Her nods steady, eyes holding mine longer than comfort required. You're worth more than scraps, she'd say, voice low, her foot nudging mine under the wood. Those talks stretched, hours bleeding into dawn, her presence a balm when everything else frayed. I'd lean closer, drawn to the way her shirt collar gaped, exposing the hollow of her throat. Attraction flickered then, buried under loyalty, but real. Now, in this clasp, it resurfaced, grief twisting through it like vines over ruins. The silence deepened our bond, attraction weaving tighter, unspoken. Her sister's loss hung between us still, a shared ache that transformed in the quiet. What was raw wound became something softer. Comfort, born from the same soil. Grief alchemizing into this pull. I felt it in the way her fingers laced with mine. Deliberate, no accident. The candle flame dipped, shadows playing over her wrist, highlighting the pulse there, matching my own. Shame clawed at the edges, but the silence held it back, letting desire breathe. Her nearness filled the hollow her sister left, not replacing, but echoing. A different warmth, steady where the other had stormed. Internal conflict peaked, loyalty to the past warring with this present fire. Her sister, gone but etched in every line of Lena's face, the same tilt to her jaw, the dark hair framing eyes that saw too much. Holding Lena's hand felt like desecration, crossing into territory marked by blood and vows I'd whispered in sunlight. Desire burned hotter, though, her thumb grazing my knuckle, sending a shiver down my spine. I wanted to release, to honor the ghost between us. But my grip held, fingers curling tighter, the past's chains loosening in her touch. Shame flooded hot, silt in my veins, whispering betrayal. Yet desire won the moment, pulling me toward her heat, the silence a confessional where loyalty bent. Her thumb stroked then, slow across my palm, tracing the lines there like reading a map to hidden places. Shivers rippled through me, electric, raising the fine hairs on my arm. The touch lingered, deliberate, her nail grazing soft, awakening nerves long dormant. My breath hitched, chest tightening, the blanket's weight suddenly intimate, trapping us in shared warmth. Grief sharpened it, her sister's memory flickering in the stroke, a echo of family, twisted now into this forbidden spark. I turned my palm up, yielding, the shiver settling deep, pooling low. No retreat, just us, hands entwined, confessions carved in skin. The storm eased outside, rain softening to a patter, wind sighing low. But intimacy heightened, the quiet amplifying every shift. Her breath closer, the candle's glow warmer on her skin. Thunder grumbled distant, fading, leaving only this charged space between us, hands still clasped, pulling tighter. Faces drew closer, inches now, the candle's flame a thin barrier between us. Her breath warmed my cheek, soft exhales mingling with mine in the dim, flickering light. Vanilla wax hung in the air, undercut by her scent, jasmine clinging to damp skin, sharp as a secret finally breathed. My heart slammed, ribs aching with each thud, the blanket's wool suddenly too heavy, trapping us in this suspended heat. Her eyes held mine, dark pools reflecting the glow, pulling me under without a word. The space vanished, her lips parted, close enough to feel the faint rush of air from them. Desire coiled tight, low and insistent, her nearness a current dragging me toward the edge. I leaned in, compelled, forehead almost brushing hers. Skin heated where our arms pressed, her thigh solid against mine under the fabric. The pull sharpened, grief twisting through it, her sister's echo in the curve of her nose, the way her breath hitched, mirroring my own turmoil. Comfort blurred into want, the silence amplifying every shift, every unspoken plea. Her free hand rose slow, hovering near my jaw, fingers trembling faint in the shadowed light. Not touching. Waiting. My pulse roared in my ears, drowning the rain's patter. Shame surged then, a wave crashing cold and sudden, flooding my chest. I pulled back, abrupt, the blanket sliding as I shifted away. Inches became a gulf, air cooling between us. Wrong. This was wrong, her blood, her loss, the betrayal it carved into my want. Heat drained from my face, shame's silt settling thick, choking the fire I'd let kindle. She didn't follow. Just watched. Gaze, steady, pleading in the softening lines around her eyes. No accusation. Just a raw echo. I feel it too. Etched in the tilt of her head, the subtle press of her lips. Vulnerability cracked through, her chest rising quick, the candle catching the sheen on her skin. Sweat beaded faint at her temple, not from the storm's chill, but this tension coiling between us. Her hand stayed in mine a beat longer, grip loosening slow, but holding the thread. I saw it there, the mirror of my shame, her own conflict flickering. Loyalty to the sister we'd buried, the family frayed by absence. Yet desire lingered in her stare, warm against the retreat, promising what words couldn't. The dripping coat lay forgotten on the floor, waters pooled dried to dark rings on the wood. Focus narrowed to heated skin, mine flushing hot at the neck, hers glowing in the flame's sway, the fine hairs on her arm standing from the shift. No chill now, just this inner fire, stoked by proximity, now flickering under shame's weight. My fingers slipped from hers, slow withdrawal, calluses grazing one last time, sending a final shiver down my spine. Hesitation hung, our hands hovering apart, palms upturned like unfinished sentences. The air thickened with it, breaths sinking still, ragged now, the candle's shadow stretching long across the wall. I wanted to bridge back, to let the pull win, but grief anchored me. Her sister's laugh in my mind, sharp as broken glass, reminding me of lines crossed. Rain softened outside, a gentle tap against the pane, mirroring the retreat inside. Wind sighed low, easing the howl into quiet. The storm's fury faded, leaving us in this charged hush, bodies still close but divided by the pullback's echo. Shame settled, heavy as damp earth, but her gaze held, unspoken, a bridge waiting in the dim. We separated then, the blanket sliding away like a shed skin. Shame settled heavy, thick as damp air after the storm's peak, clinging to my lungs with every breath. It cooled the space between us, turning the candle's warmth to a distant flicker. I drew my knees up, arms wrapping tight around them, the wool's scratch now a barrier against her nearness. My skin prickled where we'd touched, echoes of heat fading into chill. The room felt too big, too quiet, the rain's patter a soft underscore to the ache building in my chest. I grappled with it silently, the attraction's sharp edge cutting into memory like gravel underfoot. Her face blurred in my mind with her sister's. Same dark eyes, same stubborn set to the jaw. But this pull twisted it wrong. Betrayal, raw and silt thick, choked me. I'd loved her sister once, built a life on those fragile foundations, only for it to crumble under lies and distance. The accident had sealed it, stealing her away in a screech of metal and rain-slick roads. Now Lena, with her steady gaze and calloused hands, offered comfort that felt stolen, a rekindling that mocked the grave. Shame burned low, whispering that desire dishonored the loss, turned grief into something selfish. My fingers dug into my arms, nails biting skin, trying to anchor the turmoil. How could I want this? Her presence filled the hollow her sister left, but it eroded the edges, blurring loyalty into longing. The candle sputtered, shadows lengthening across the floor, mirroring the retreat in my gut. She stood slow, the couch creaking under the shift. Her movements deliberate, no rush, but weighted, like lifting sodden earth after a flood. She crossed to the coat, pooled, forgotten by the door, water's rings dried to faint stains on the wood. Bending, she gathered it, fabric heavy in her arms, dripping last drops that thudded soft. Her back to me now, shoulders squared but tense, the line of her neck exposed where hair had dried in loose waves. Regret etched her posture, subtle. A slight hunch, the way her hand paused on the collar, fingers tracing the seam as if memorizing the feel. She didn't turn right away, just held there, the coat a shield against the quiet we'd shattered. When she faced me, eyes met again, conveying it all without a sound. Regret pooled deep in hers, dark and unguarded, a mirror to my own churn. No blame, just the weight of what we'd brushed against, the forbidden spark amid shared sorrow. Her gaze lingered, promising unresolved tension, a thread pulled taut but not snapped. It hung between us, heavy with empathy, the kind that binds without words. We understood the pull, the shame weaving through it. Grief's roots too tangled to uproot in one night. Her lips pressed thin, a faint nod acknowledging the boundary we'd redrawn. The air hummed with it, thick, unspoken resolution, or lack of one. Just this quiet, empathetic hush, filling the room like settling silt. She moved to the door, hand on the knob, the metal cool under her palm. It turned slow, opening to the calmer night outside. Rain whispered now, wind a sigh through the cracks. Streetlights glowed faint through the gap, casting her silhouette sharp. She paused there, frame filling with threshold, one last look back. Eyes held mine, soft, the promise flickering, tension unresolved, waiting in the shadows. She stepped out then, the door easing shut behind her with a soft click that echoed in the sudden quiet. No goodbye, just gone. The storm had faded outside, rain now a faint drizzle tapping the sill, wind whispering through the cracks like a held breath finally released. I sat there, blanket pooled around my waist, the wool still warm where her body had been. The candle burned low, flame guttering, casting long shadows that stretched toward the empty space she'd left. My hand tingled, palm marked faint from her grip, the calluses' imprint lingering like silt on skin after a river's pass. Alone again, the room pressed in, heavier now with what we'd stirred. Shame coiled tight in my gut, a slow churn, mixing with the grief I'd carried these months. Her sister's face flickered in my mind, smiling, then shattered in that accident's blur, the interstate's slick curve claiming her without warning. Lena's eyes held the same loss, deeper maybe, family roots torn raw. Yet in that silence, comfort had slipped through, unexpected, her touch a bridge over the wreckage. I traced my fingers over my palm, feeling the ghost of her thumb's stroke, shivers echoing low. Attraction rekindled, sharp and unbidden, blooming amid the ache like stubborn weeds in cracked earth. Wrong, it felt, stealing warmth from shared sorrow, desire threading through loyalty's frayed edges. But hope budded too, fragile, a spark against the dark. Her gaze at the door, promising more, hung in the air like the rain's echo. I stood, legs unsteady, crossing to the window. The city lights smeared through the glass, blurred by lingering drops. Outside, puddles reflected the street lamp's glow, shallow pools mirroring the turmoil inside. The warmth of her touch clung to my arm, a faint heat against the cooling room. Her scent, jasmine faint, mixed with rain's clean bite, hanging in the folds of the blanket. I pulled it close, wrapping it around my shoulders, the wool rough against my neck. Sensory anchors grounded me, the patter fading to drips from the eaves, the floor's chill seeping up through my socks, the candle's vanilla wax pooling soft. Each one pulled me back to her nearness, the way our breaths had synced, hands clasped in confession's quiet. Processing it all, shame warred with the pull, a low thud in my chest, like distant thunder. I'd buried this before, those glances at barbecues, her steady presence in my unraveling marriage. Now, with her sister gone, it resurfaced, demanding reckoning. Grief sharpened it, the loss a hollow that Lena's comfort filled, not erasing, but reshaping. Budding hope flickered. Maybe this spark wasn't theft, but survival, roots finding new soil in the ruins. I leaned against the frame, forehead cool on the glass, watching the storm's tail end wash the streets clean. A future encounter loomed unspoken, her key to my door a thread waiting to pull taut again, tension unresolved in the night's hush. Internally, I vowed it then, quiet but firm. I'd confront these feelings, shame be damned. No more burying under loyalty's weight. The attraction, the comfort, it deserved air, even if it twisted through grief's thorns. The candle snuffed out with a final sputter, darkness settling full. But in that black, her warmth echoed, a promise against the cold. The door's click faded into quiet reflection, her echo warming the empty room. If this stirred something in you, subscribe for more intimate stories like this. Share in the comments if you felt that silent pull.